Mr. Brief?
Like, breathe bro. You know why? Mr. James Cricket is the professor of color. 2 years ago, he moved out here to LA. So, the first part of the question, ready? Yeah. New York, LA. So pretty much at least 30 years on and off in New York City.
Everybody who were kids in the 80s, we were like little kids in the 70s, but once you get into the 80s, dance was just so a part of the DNA.
Verify. The black culture.
No, yes. Okay, black culture, but American culture, bro, look at American Bandstand. Look at all it was dancing. Like, look at Saturday Night Fever.
Right.
That's a reflection of pop culture.
So like all the white people, black, everybody's dancing.
Everything kind of piggybacks
Yeah.
off of it. Kids are already doing social dances. Dance-wise, these movements were already in circulation. They're doing the WAP. They're doing the Cabbage Patch. Because the conversation here in LA is going to be totally different from the conversation that's being happening in Philly, and that's been happening like the Midwest and in the South.
Yes,
so I can speak about what was happening here. It's cool because when you talk to a lot of early street dancers from all over, we were watching this stuff as kids and it was informing our process.
Sure.
But also on these variety shows, this is where like, you know, my mom would call us because, you know, you would see the lockers would show up on this type of show. The electric boogaloo would show up.
So they were all the way in the West Coast, but you see it in the
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
oh, that's what's happening out there. Oh, friend. Very old man. A lot of you guys already know. Cricket.
Hi.
You have a lot of fans, by the way.
Really?
Out there. You do. They recognize you.
Cool.
And your name is Mr. Breathe.
Mr. Brief?
Like, breathe, bro. You know why?
Why?
Because every time you comment on those videos, you see like, breathe.
Oh,
Like, oh, yeah.
I thought that was Conrad.
That was Conrad in the session.
Yeah.
But you mention like the whole rhythm of it all the time, and then they put like comments on it like, oh, that's Breathe, bro.
Yo, my bad, Conrad, because you're the first Breathe, bro. You're the
You took it from him.
Yeah, I took it. You're the original Breathe, bro, Mr. Conrad Rochester. Oh my God.
Yes. Anyway, so we have Cricket here, which is crazy because guess what? We're not in New York. We are right here in Los Angeles.
Can I curse?
You can say whatever. This is a free podcast. Yeah, say whatever. So, and then he obviously now has a very different title. Mr. James Cricket, in quotation marks, Coulter, did I say it right?
Yeah, Coulter.
Coulter is the professor of color, California Institution of Art.
Yeah.
There we
The
go.
best animation school in the country.
Hello.
But I teach dance there.
Hey!
You can't make this shit up.
Best of the two words. Best of the two words. So Cricket is a professor, which is a very rare, I guess, profession for a street dancer because most of the street dancers either work in a studio or some sort of like organization that does shows or some sort of theater group. But you can only name like very few, like handful of professors in the whole United States.
It's wild.
Right?
So wild.
So I talked to Marcel earlier, and he mentioned that when he first started, he was one of the very first teachers that got into this professor position, and then Cricket got this job 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago, and then he moved out here to LA. So the first part of the question, ready? Yeah. New York, LA. Talking about, I mean, we can go beyond just the dance, but let's start from the dance scene, because obviously you spent how long in New York?
I moved there in 03, 04, but I've been going back and forth regularly to New York since 94.
So officially 03, 04.
Yeah.
And then you move out 2022, so almost 20 years.
Almost 20.
But you can also backtrack for like another 10 years.
Yeah.
So pretty much at least 30 years on and off in New York City.
Yeah.
So you are more or less, the figure or the person, like contact person or a representative for the New York house dance scene. At least one of them, right?
I would, yeah, in a way, because I feel like but I'm still learning and I'm still a student, and I was in a weird position of, I feel like in a lot of ways, a lot of times when I would ask questions, native New Yorkers would look at me like, kind of like, you should know this, and they would assume I would know certain things.
Yeah.
And I'd be like,
you don't know.
I don't know. And then on top of that, there were a lot of things that I was picking up by being in New York,
right,
that I would ask questions about, and they would go, "You do it already."
So originally you're from Philly.
Yeah. Well, Philadelphia and we had a lot of neighboring suburbs.
Okay.
And I was in the suburb of Philadelphia that was right outside of New Jersey.
So let's go from there. Were you like the information that you got dancing wise? Mm-hmm. Was it already like around, or you had to go to New York for it?
Nah, man. Like, because you got to think about every city. I would say, especially coming out of the 60s into the 70s into the 80s. You got just the teenage culture kicking off really 50s, 60s, that whole teenage dance and social dances. You're coming into the 70s, and that leads into disco. And then you got everybody who were kids in the 80s, we were like little kids in the 70s. But once you get into the 80s, man, dance was just so a part of the DNA of America. It was just everybody danced.
Let's clarify. The black culture.
No, yes. Okay, black culture, but American culture. Bro, look at American Bandstand. Look at it was dancing. Bro, look at, when you talk about Studio 54, you talk about all these big discos, it was, it was, black people get busy and dance, but at one point, if you look at any documentary about disco and discotheques, bro, it was like there was a discotheque everywhere.
Okay.
It was this. You know how America gets into their fads. The fad of disco. There was discotheques everywhere. It was like when you hear songs, when you look at Saturday Night Fever.
Right.
That's a reflection of pop culture.
So like all the white people, black, everybody's dancing. So, but what about hip hop?
Hip hop, when you're talking about early hip hop, I'm hearing early hip hop in the coming out of the 70s. I was like 5 when I heard my first hip hop, not hip hop song. I'm gonna say rap song.
Sure.
Because hip hop is this is just in theory. This is how I'm seeing it. Each thing piggybacks off of something else.
Yes.
And when you have jazz, and then jazz funk, and then jazz funk into like a lot of the disco, and all these things kind of piggyback off of the next thing.
Yeah.
So when you have disco and a lot of and R&B, you got hip hop kind of piggybacking off of that too.
But rap already exists before.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about what I can rap. I'm talking about, I was 5 years old. I was like 77. My sister's already playing. Rapper's Delight came out, but just like things are commercial. There's like the mainstream, and there's all this like other stuff.
Yeah.
Because once Rapper's Delight is on the regular radio, kids that are hip are already listening to the next thing. So when Rapper's Delight is hitting, I'm already hearing like other rap songs.
Yeah.
Curtis Blow. I'm not sure. I'm hearing Grandmaster Flash and the Fierce Fight, but I can't date exactly because I'm a little kid. But I just know that this is mainstream.
Sure.
And my sister's already on to the next.
Okay, so back to the dance part. So are you saying like the disco era, everybody danced? When hip hop, the actual hip hop music started, did the dance merge like simultaneously? Or like, do you see people around your neighborhood or club that you go to already start dancing hip hop?
Nah, man, I would say the same thing. Like I said before, everything kind of piggybacks off of it. Kids are already doing social dances,
which wasn't like strictly hip hop, but it's already like a form of dance.
So you think about this. You could look at Soul Train, American Bandstand, and then there's a multitude of and now Rennie and a lot of my friends were on Dance Party USA, and that was the local Philadelphia dance show. And now that you get to go on YouTube, you're seeing that all these other local television stations had their little local dance TV show. So you're seeing, and this is when R&B is now the dominant.
So it's already mainstream. You see it on TV. Okay.
Yeah, but dance-wise, these movements were already in circulation. Like my sister is partying to like Alexander O'Neal, DeBarge, who else is listening to? Like Madam X, Prince, Rick James, all these groups that that music, they're doing the WAP, they're doing the Cabbage Patch.
The Cabbage Patch. Okay. Do the WAP.
That's like
What?
the WAP?
Yeah, the WAP.
I can't just go back
Oh,
there.
no. Not that WAP. Not that WAP. The 80s WAP. Well, hold on. There's a new WAP?
That all this movement.
So you're saying that when you were in Philly / New Jersey, that's where you were growing up, you already learned that aspect of the dance without having the knowledge of the so-called hip-hop dance, the coined hip-hop dance.
I didn't hear. Now you'd have to talk to someone, and this is why I say like I represent New York to a point, because I'm still talking to people who grew up in New York while all this was happening. I'm outside of it, so I talk about the phenomena from here. It's a whole different experience for those who were within it. And I'm still amazed by the stories I get from native New Yorkers during that period, because I can speak from the outside.
You're like an outsider going to New York, experience everything.
Well, not only that, but just what was happening outside of New York. Because, and I mean, you got to think about it. Every major city, because the conversation here in LA is going to be totally different from the conversation that's being happening in Philly, and that's being happening like the Midwest and then the South. I can speak about what was happening here. Here, there were already. Now I couldn't even tell you why, but I already knew that I could already see when I was a kid, and we were stationed in Virginia. My dad was in the military, so we were living in Virginia. And again, I'm 5. I'm hearing rap and I'm seeing kids popping. And now I know, like, because I was a kid, I'm seeing them wearing all black with these silver. They've got these silver things on their wrists with suspenders, with shiny suspenders. I'm seeing this going, whoa, and they're popping. Now, looking back, I can see that they were imitating the electric boogaloos. And when I say imitating the electric boogaloos, when I was 5, and it's funny, I was talking to one of my students about this. Variety shows were huge, and a variety show, I would say variety shows, they still keep that tradition in Asia. I can't speak on Europe, but every time I look at a lot of the Asian shows, they still keep the variety show where it's like it's a host and they have celebrity guests, and they just talk and they interview them, and then they have a act, a form of entertainer come on, and it could be like puppets, dancers,
like American Got Talent.
No, well, okay, you know how imagine America's Got Talent mixed with Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh, like more interview / talk show?
Yeah.
And then also like a talent show.
Yeah. So, and bro, I miss that shit, man.
Okay.
But there is where you would see a lot of like culture. I hate to say it, man. You would get culturally informed off of these shows, because they would have like, oh, we've got these acrobats from China. We were gonna have these Russian acrobats.
Right.
And it's cool because when you talk to a lot of early street dancers from all over, we were watching this stuff as kids, and it was informing our process. But also on these variety shows, this is where, like, you know, my mom would call us because, you know, you would see the lockers would show up on these type of shows. The electric boogaloos would show up.
So they were all the way in the West Coast, but you see it in the East Coast, and you know, oh, that's what's happening out there. And then some of the kids would be learning, even though they didn't see them. Okay, so let's jump around a little bit. Because initially I was asking you the experience of moving from New York, because that's where you lived most recently,
Yeah.
to LA. So let's jump back to the current time.
Got it.